So you want to know what Nintendo has? Habits. You know what I don't like? When those habits are annoying as crap. Well, for the past 3 years, Nintendo has formed a relatively new habit for their games, and that is releasing games in an unfinished state. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but Platinum Warp Star, Nintendo would never release an unfinished game. They are absolute peak quality in their gamery. Well, my dear friend, I wish you were right. But the truth is, Nintendo likes to release their games unfinished earlier than they're supposed to release just so they can get the money sooner. Now, they never outright state this, but for the past 3 years, a couple of games have been in the habit of they release a game and then later they add free DLC, quote unquote, to the game after launch. Now, by the sound of it, that sounds exciting, right? You know, the game is getting free content. How generous of them to add free content after we've already made our purchase. Well, the problem is most of these games are $60, and it turns out there actually is not that much content in them, especially compared to previous entries in their respective series. A couple of examples: Kirby Star Allies, it had a beginning, middle, and end with the story mode, but usually there's a ton of post-game content to work with in Kirby games, and it didn't take them until the end of 2018 to add in the rest of content that should have been in the game at launch. And while it acts like it's free DLC, it's basically, it's really just them waiting to finish the game until after they release it. It's like they're putting their games in early access without telling anybody, which is kind of annoying, honestly. I really don't like that. You know, at least with early access games, you know that, you know, the game isn't finished yet and it will be finished soon. At least you know that. Nintendo doesn't really have, they don't really say that their games are in early access, even though they really clearly are. One of the more recent examples, Mario Golf Super Rush, came out very recently. I beat that game in like a day, and I've experienced all the content that game has to offer in like 2 days. And you want to know what's funny? Mario Golf Super Rush is $60. Now let me tell you, with the amount of content that Mario Golf Super Rush has in this current state, it is not a $60 game. It is a $60 game, but it doesn't deserve to be a $60 game. It's fun, but it definitely it does not deserve to be full priced at the moment. On a side note, when I say these games are unfinished, I don't mean that they're bad. I still find a lot of enjoyment for most of them, like Kirby Star Allies, for example. Mario Tennis Aces was another one. The game was really fun, but it wasn't, it took them like a year to add like all of the characters in and modes that really should have been in the game at launch, because the game at launch was pretty lacking. So Mario Tennis Aces kind of like became good after all the updates. Just like I assume Mario Golf Super Rush will be good after all of the updates, but right now you're paying $60 for a game that really isn't finished and has much less content than the 3DS entry, which has a whopping 14 golf courses. You want to know how many golf courses are in Mario Golf Super Rush? 6. That is less than half of what the 3DS entry has. Actually, let me double check that. Okay, no, I was wrong. 16 courses in Mario Golf World Tour, including DLC. Okay, well, that game had paid DLC, but the point is, Mario Golf World Tour was finished, Mario Golf Super Rush is not, clearly. And heck, sometimes, even when these games get all their updates, they still don't feel like they're finished. In my opinion, Animal Crossing New Horizons, I had a blast with that game when it launched, but after playing it for like a month, you realize that the game has much less content than the previous entry on the 3DS, and they added a ton of updates into that game as well to add features that really should have been in the game at launch, like core features in Animal Crossing that should have been in the game at launch. The thing is, when you look at these games as if they're in early access, it's like, okay, well, obviously the game isn't done yet, so you know, it's fine. We know exactly what you're getting into. The thing is, you don't know that these are early access games because, you know, they treat them like full releases. Like, they're $60. They have full physical versions. You know, they're fully releasing these games in an unfinished state. They're just finishing them later. And the problem is, by the time they do end up finishing them, nobody really cares about the game anymore. Like, I guarantee you, after Mario Golf Super Rush gets all of its updates, I bet the game will be a ton better after all the updates. But by that time, nobody will really care. Most of the time, the absolute boom of a game's player base is during the launch. So depending on how much content is in a game, they'll either maintain that player base or they'll lose it very quickly, which I'm pretty sure will happen in Mario Golf Super Rush, and it happened for pretty much all the other games, except for Animal Crossing. That was the only exception, because people stuck around with that one. But yeah, I can guarantee, just like with Mario Tennis Aces, by the time the game is finished and all the updates are out, barely anybody's going to be playing it anymore. I think they should really wait to release these games until all of the free DLC is added in the game, to where it's all functional at launch and the game is complete. And if they genuinely feel like adding DLC, they can even add paid DLC after the game's launch. Because, you know, I would rather a complete experience at launch rather than an incomplete experience and then wait for it to be done later. Especially when they don't tell you that it isn't finished. Let's not kid ourselves. Nintendo's not going to tell us that these games are not finished. Because if they tell you that, then, well, no one's going to buy it. But yeah, even though we know what we're getting into, it's just annoying. Like, you pay a full $60 for this game that has less content than previous entries at launch, and you gotta wait until, like, I'd say at most, like, a year after the game's launch to finally get the full complete experience. And by the time the full complete experience is done, you know, everyone that's interested in the game, possibly including you, just really doesn't care, and you're not going to get to experience the rest of the game with everybody because they got less interested in it. I don't know, it's a really annoying trend that I want to see them stop. They're probably not going to stop this trend because obviously Nintendo games still sell well. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I bought Mario Golf Super Rush and the rest of the games I'm talking about at launch, so I'm not exactly helping the situation, but the least I can do is speak up about it, because this is honestly my least favorite trend with Nintendo's more recent games. It makes me start to miss the GameCube and Wii era, and even the Wii U era at some points. But hey, as long as Nintendo's making them racks on racks, we ain't gonna see jack shit change anytime soon, so this video is gonna be completely useless. But at least I get to get this stuff off my chest. Once again, I would like to mention that I do like the games I mentioned. I still have fun with them. You know, they're still quality titles. They're well made and polished and everything, for the most part at least. But they're just not released in a state that they should be in at launch, and thus the player base for these games are just gonna decrease rapidly, more rapidly than if they just release the game as a whole at launch. I could go on, honestly. I could go on about probably the lack of charm in some of these games that are unfinished and unreleased, but that's probably a topic for another video. Let's be real, I've been rambling long enough. Again, I do like most of the games that they put out, but, you know, I hate it when they release them in an unfinished state and we all have to wait until the game is finished for them to, for it to truly be a good game. I want it to be a good game at launch. I don't want to wait for it to be a good game after I've already purchased it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. I want to know what you guys think about this entire thing. Do you agree with me that they should wait to release the games when they're actually finished and all of the content is in there that should be in the game? Or do you think they should just keep releasing these games in their unfinished state? That way all of us can play it early and Nintendo can make their money as soon as possible and give less of a shit. Thanks for watching. Talk to y'all later. See ya.